right, thank you guys. Thank you for the lovely welcome. Yes, Carolyn Ford, lots of stuff that you just said. It makes me very, very sentimental every time someone talks about Limestone College. So I'd like to say a few things in preparation. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being involved with the college. It's so, so important because if you think about if this college were to be wiped away, where would you be? What would you do? How would the community be impacted? So Gaffney right now, the taxes are increasing. So many people that have lost their jobs, so much support that the college gave back and forth. I get super, super sentimental with this. So when I came here and I saw you at move-in day, and I see you at all the athletic events, and I see so many of you out and about in the community, it warms my heart. It makes me extremely sentimental. So I'll try not to get emotional about that. But when I interviewed, I said, don't let me fall in love with this place and let it crumble. I need to know that I went from South Carolina's oldest college to Georgia's oldest college, and I need to know that it's going to stay strong. So thank you for all the sacrifices that you guys have all had to make through the times, and to see that it is growing and succeeding, because I think about John Lawrence in the room and I hear about his history and how he brought about the Lamar Dodd building and the permanent collection and how huge the program was at the time. And I want us to champion to bring it all back to that state, to make this place huge and to bring a huge impact. So I've got some housekeeping beforehand. Sorry, when y'all introduced me, I was like, oh my gosh, you got me sentimental. When they say that Southerners talk slow, I'm from Tennessee. It's going to be rapid fire, so I've got a couple things. Hold on. I want to make sure that, so yes, ooh la la. So I'm going to request of you all, if you would like to do a little interaction back and forth with me. If I do a ceramic demo and I'm doing something that's really pretty, I oftentimes like to tell the students like ooh, ah. So since my talk is ooh la la, if you see some art that's salacious, if you see some art that's beautiful, feel free to say ooh la la, or maybe I'll do this and you can say ooh la la with me. It'll be dorky, it'll be fun. If it's silly, it'll be fun. So I'm very goofy, I like humor. I also, when I was in South Carolina, I taught spin class, so this lecture is going to be like your sprint. There's too much to cover, too much to cover. So I'd also like to say thank you to my friend Emily Tuttle, Dr. Emily Tuttle. She's teaching online art history for us, and I was like, oh my gosh, French art, there's too much. So this is a year's worth in a summary, but I cut a lot out. So we're going to go really fast. I have not been to France, so I need some shameless promotions beforehand. And how many of you guys have been to the Lamar Dodd Center and seen my current exhibit? Okay, some of you guys. So if you have seen the exhibit, so we've got plenty of people that haven't, so this is going to be part of my shameless plug. Please go and see the show. We've got 2 weeks for that show to be up, and we've got about 2 weeks for Robbie's show to be up. So Robbie Tolles he's got his photographs up. You have potentially more than 2 weeks to see The Trees of LaGrange by John Lawrence. They're upstairs, and the permanent collection is still up. But I would like to see you all on Thursday night for the student art show. So go see the show, because if you see my art, you'll see that there's a large series based on my travels. France is not included. Haven't been there yet. I thought, hot dang, let me go. I said dang, I didn't say the other. So yeah, if you, another shameless plug, you want a whole body of work to be done based off of the next trip, invite me along. I will produce an entire body of work based off our experience, because that's one of the things. I like to learn from each other. So my other body of work is based off of communication and language and colloquialisms. So I was trying to research French phrases and colloquialisms that are related to their culture, because no matter where you go, we have different phrases that mean the same thing. It's just the way that we, butter things up. So anyway, I don't speak French. It was going to butcher it if I tried to. I was researching all these phrases, so I'm like, ooh, let's add this in. I skip that. I don't want to embarrass myself with trying to pronounce things in French. So go see all the art shows. Go see all the plays. Go see all the things. Continue to be involved with every single thing that LaGrange has to offer. Imagine it were taken away. So my other thing is that we are going to have a sweetening condensed art history, because if we were to really cover this, you should be enrolled in art history classes for at least a full year. Probably more, because if we go into all the specialties, and I know that I will never be the person that John Lawrence is, hopefully in the future. It's goals and dreams, wishes, wants, needs. I want to be the personality of John Lawrence. All right, so yeah, we're gonna have our sweetened and condensed version. We'll get into some juicy bits. And when I go into the juicy bits, yeah, some of those juicy bits, some people might say, ooh, that's inappropriate. Think culturally. Why do we do these things culturally? And also, like, what, well-behaved women don't make history? Do we really write stories about, like, I woke up this morning and I drank some coffee? You know, so a lot of your art is gonna be the soap opera information. So yeah, we're going to cover some isms and some non-isms. How many of you guys had to take an art appreciation class or an art history class? Anybody not familiar with art history? Oh no, everybody knows. Hopefully they told you the thing is, like, when you're looking in the art, instead of making a shallow, quick judgment like that stinks, or anybody could do that, my child could do that, we need to learn to see. And when we learn to see, we need to look at certain things. So if we go into the Feldman 4, anybody else Feldman 4? No? All right, so when we're looking at the art, describe what you see. Take your time. Because I had someone ask me, I was trying to find people to travel with me, as far as like taking students on a trip, and someone had said, are you going to force me into going to museums? Like, oh yeah, I'm going to headlock you and I'm going to pull you in. You're going to look at this. No, that's not how we do it. But I was like, man, you must have had a really stinky art history professor. Or an art teacher. Like, my gosh, we should be like, so when we look at the art, you know, what do you see? How is it made? What are their medium processes? Let's break it down into the elements and principles, and then we get into the juicy stuff, the storytelling time. So when we get into the storytelling, what is the context that affects the content? So that's one of the key things as far as art is, like, you know, why? And I tell my students all the time, like, be like a 4-year-old. You know, why? Because if we have a better understanding, because how many of you guys look at art a lot of times and you say, I just don't understand. So, and you know, I use this phrase a lot. Y'all are gonna have to forgive me. Opinions are like buttholes. So we all have them, but sometimes they stink. So we need to educate one another. That's a Tennessee thing. So the colloquialisms, if you go see my art, I've got those type of phrases. I'm glad that you're laughing. I hope that other people will laugh, because I've got doozies of phrases. And no one else is from Tennessee? One person? Have you heard that one before? Okay, we got it. All right, we got these phrases in Georgia, yeah? All right, so yeah, so if we break ourselves down to also thinking about the purpose, because sometimes I get really cranky when people discount crafts. I don't have that much. I put in one slide for ceramics. It kind of breaks my heart, but you know, I've got one thing that I throw in there. So yeah, if we can go into all of these things as far as looking at the art. So let's go to Kevin Shirley's slide. Oh, last thing with the Feldman 4, it's describe, analyze, interpret, and judge. But I don't like the word judge. Thou shalt not judge. Doesn't mean you have to be religious, but I like the word critique. So when we understand how it's made, when we understand the media and methods, when we understand the technology and the history that influences us, we will have a better understanding of why it can be justified. So there's plenty of stuff that we don't understand. So anyway, yes, we can critique it. And when we critique it, even if you don't like it, you can understand the skill and the history that was why it was made. All right, so I pulled in some Kevin Shirley images. I put a couple memes. It might be a little tiny for you to read, but I know I'm about to give a talk at a medieval conference in England this summer. And that was because I have great connections with art historians. And if you make friends with art historians, they really can justify your imposter syndrome at times. Like, I feel good in the ceramics community. Both two art historians were like, you use medievalisms all the time. So if we see the images that Kevin Shirley was showing, not the memes that I brought up for medieval, it's oftentimes clunky. We see scale confusion. People are larger than the buildings. There's a joke, a meme up there about, oh, I bought my house from IKEA. So the perspective is off. We have overlapping images, multiple images at one time, hierarchy of information. But you gotta think technology from back then, they were not actively sketching with paper. So you might have had vellum. So the practice wasn't there. They were writing illuminated manuscripts at the time, but you've got to think the big burst of solving a lot of problems happens during the Renaissance, and a lot of that is from active drawing and sketching, so the practice. So they're learning from one another. So if you look at, prehistoric art, super clunky, but we get the gist of it. So there's some beauty in the clunkiness. It's funny. There's so much funny stuff. So if you guys like medieval art history, I got somebody to give you a talk later on. It won't be me, but it'll be one of my buddies. So anyway, my students, I've got 2 of my students in the house right now. Before you leave, I see you getting ready to wiggle out. What composition is this right here, Kat? Quatrefoil, yay, quatrefoil. Yeah, so it's that the arcs with the points, the 4 points. But anyway, if you see this one right here, it looks like they're awkwardly sitting in something that an architect would roll in their grave looking at that right there. So anyway, that's medieval. All right, so for you guys, what do you see? What do you see? You're about to see this. Huh? Beauty. Oh, ooh la la. Ooh la la. Please feel free to dole out the ooh la la's at any point. The dorkier you are, the more fun I have. So yes, the ooh la la. So when we think about medieval times, because Kevin Shirley had talked about that, so I like to have an overarching umbrella. I call it ECB, Early Christian Byzantine. And within early Christian Byzantine, you've got your Gothic architecture and you've got your Romanesque architecture. Romanesque influenced by Romans with a lot of arches, but it's dark and fortress-like. So we're going to have, during the time of the Crusades, we're going to go back in just a second. But as far as when we look at this, how we can look at the context and the content and how things are made. And we'll go into that in just a second. But if during the Crusades there's certain areas where Christians will still be persecuted, we think of dark and fortress-like. And we'll go into hellfire damnation. In the areas where Christianity is prevailing and we're getting all those tokens to come in, put that in the pocket, and we continue to flourish and move on, we think about the light and the bright and the mystery of God through the stained glass windows. So if we also think about educational system, and that a lot of people aren't reading, those windows were there to educate because of the imagery. So because not everybody's reading at the time. But anyway, the wow moment of Gothic architecture. All right. Now that's a visual barf right there. And we can't cover all this. So I just wanted to say, if I had to cover all this, and it kills me because I left out Art Nouveau and Art Deco and I left out all this other stuff that's so juicy. Advocate for your art historians. I'm hoping that somebody might understand this, what movie reference this came from. Who was my pop culture person over here? Somebody who said that. Yes, Airplane. Picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. That's a quote from the movie. I didn't sniff glue. But anyway, yeah, at the very beginning of Airplane, they say, tell me everything and start from the beginning. And he says, well, first there were the dinosaurs, but they all got too big and fat, and they all died and turned into oil. But anyway, yeah, first the earth cooled, and then the dinosaurs came. So, I love that movie. I quote it all the time. But one of the first steps to talk about is prehistory. Why were these images left in the cave wall? Apparently some little kid fell into a hole, and then they were able to open this up. They had to close it back up. You might see a replica someplace, but yeah, if you go in to see a lot of cave art, it will deteriorate if it's exposed to light and the conditions. So that's the other thing. When you think about museums and galleries, we have to advocate for the proper conditions so that the art doesn't deteriorate. So that's the other thing, is I'm sure you all know that when you go to a gallery or a museum or whatnot, that don't touch the art because your greasy little fingers are going to break it down. And what's the first thing you see when a lot of Americans come by? Oh, look, I touched. I'm like, oh, no. So anyway, cave paintings of Lascaux. I could go into talking about all these stylistic conventions if anybody's interested, but if not, we'll move on ahead. Cave stuff. I didn't put Captain Caveman in there. I usually like to put Captain Caveman as a reference, but kids don't understand that anymore. All right, so I like to say Greek and Roman, but when I was talking to my art historical friend, she said, no, don't talk about the Greeks. They're going to see a lot of Roman things in France, but the reason why I like to bunch in Greeks and Romans is because I call the Romans the copycats of the Greeks. But I also like to put an emphasis on this because every college campus, how many of you guys know the difference between Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns? Yes, like, oh. So what's that? I heard somebody say something. Oh, yeah, direct eye. So, yeah, when you go to college campuses and you see different places that are supposed to represent your education. So here we are at a liberal arts school. It's so horrible if you're at a liberal arts school that they don't support the fact that we should be jack of all trades. We should be supporting one another. So thank you for coming for an art talk. But yes, art isn't art without math and science. Your scientists were artists. Our history is important. Art history is history. All of these things we need to be so interconnected to support one another. So I was just talking, who was my biologist? Or no, my chemist. I just met somebody that was a chemist, faculty emeriti, back in the back. Yeah, so all of these things are so important as far as learning one another. But anyway, yes, the Greeks were jack of all trades. But anyway, we're not talking about them. So as far as your Roman influences, I took a lot of these images from different travel things of locations where you guys will be going. For those of you that aren't traveling, for those of you that aren't traveling, live vicariously and maybe sign up for another round and or maybe sit in on some other art classes or history classes. So yeah, if we think about the rounded arch, that's very Roman, the keystone at the top, but amphitheater, different ceramic mosaics and whatnot, but when we get into the land of church, bam, 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 we're just skipping on ahead, and I'm throwing out some other art history, not talking about all of it, but when we get into the land of church, we think about infusion of Celtic knotwork within the jewelry that you might see, and that's from when we're doing the Crusades and we're mixing and mingling with cultures. So one of the big things to think about is French art wouldn't be French art without mixing and mingling with other cultures, that we're constantly building upon one another. So a lot of the images that Kevin Shirley was showing, a lot of those references were actually, some of those were Italian, so it might be Italians mixing and mingling with, oh, here's a meme. I don't know if you guys can read that, but there's so many fun. Go down to the rabbit hole if you like humor and look up medieval memes, and you'll just, if you're like me and you have a twisted sense of humor, you'll laugh and you'll laugh and you'll laugh. But yeah, medieval times were very, very hard times. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to give you this one quote about medieval times. In wine there is wisdom, in beer there is strength, in water there is bacteria. Thank you, Dr. Tuttle. She did not make that up, but that was, so medieval times, hard times. So if we're thinking about, when things are going to get better, we're gonna jump into Renaissance time. But guess what? Well, I'm not going to talk about Renaissance. All right. So your illuminated manuscripts, the original times of illuminated manuscripts are like the base of your graphic design studies when we create these books. The calligraphy, calligraphic mark making, your drop cap. So you don't read once upon a time, it's once upon a time, that large first letter. So for those of you that have students that go on to take graphic design, we have graphic design classes here. So early letterpress. Sorry, I might geek out on some other things. I'm glad that you're giving me eye contact because I don't want to lose some of you others. Because I'm trying to give a quick blow by blow. In the areas where we have turmoil, we see a lot of hellfire damnation images. So just when you're going to look at other churches and you see like it's the last judgment, it's because the doom and gloom of whatnot. When we see the beauty of the Gothic architecture, it is we are prevailing. So I don't know what kind of church you guys go to. How many of you guys go to the God is Love church? And how many of you guys go to hellfire damnation? It doesn't matter. I don't judge. You do you. These were some images that Kevin Shirley had brought because you guys are going to go to this location. So we see more dark and fortress-like. Whereas in other areas we're going to go into, some of you guys will see the images with the stained glass windows and the height and the light, the beauty of God. So if we go into some of the architectural structures, I know this is really, really short, the vault, the ribbed vault, the pointed arches, all of that allowed them to build taller and taller and taller. And as they were building taller, they were able to open up those windows to put in the stained glass windows. I know I had a hard time paying attention when I was in high school in church because we were working at Hardee's. It was the fast food place where everybody did their cruising and we had to stay up late. So we would sit in the back with all the oldies that would snooze. And so I paid more attention to the stained glass windows. So if you think that early times of church, before vernacular means everyday language, you would have someone translating the illuminated manuscripts and whatnot in Latin. So remember I say, verily, verily, I say unto thee, when is the sign of the armadillo, or when the dog lieth with the cat, it is the sign of the armadillo. That's what my dad said. That's not in the Bible. Not in the Bible. But anyway, imagine when I would go to Italy and I would hear them saying like, Ave Maria, Papa John's Pizza, oh. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I had no idea what they were saying. They were not talking about Papa John's Pizza, but the idea that you're engulfed in this area and somebody else is transcribing what this means and you trusted what they said because you weren't educated, you couldn't read. So the images in the stained glass windows would reinforce that. So when they say that imagery isn't important, art isn't important, how many of you guys are just reading the regular book to your kid, and how many of you guys are showing your kid how to learn to read because you're looking at the image that connected to it? So your stained glass windows reinforce the images as someone was transcribing what they needed to learn. So the history is in the windows, but the history in the windows has a very hard outline, a cloisonne effect, so goes back to a lot of the stylistic conventions of medieval art. A lot of times they have huge alien-esque eyes and jug heads. I draw people with tiny little heads. So yes, when you go to Notre Dame or you go to other places, you're going to look at these beautiful, beautiful stained glass windows. So nice. And last night I was in chapel, and I was observing our beautiful stained glass windows. So you can't swing a cat by the tail. Don't do that. That's just a Tennessee phrase. When you're around this campus to see art everywhere. So yeah, if we look at the outside of Notre Dame, you will see the flying buttresses. So as they built these large open windows with the pointed arches, they found that the buildings would sway a bit, so in order to keep them stable, so that they could have the mystery of God through these tall structures, they built flying buttresses to give external structure or stability. There's your pots. I like big pots and I can't deny. But I chose the one with all the fun stuff. So does anybody watch Outlander? Okay, a couple people like Outlander, yeah. All right, so you know when she's picking her herbs and whatnot, and, oh, it's witchcraft, blah, 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 blah. No, these are my healing things. So if you look at, oh, don't forget your opium and heroin pots, a little bit of arsenic and whatnot, but I just had to throw in something with ceramics. All right, Renaissance. Why am I not going to talk much about Renaissance? Because I place the majority of Renaissance stuff into Italy's zone. And I had an entire semester just on Italian Renaissance. So yes, they're mixing and mingling. So this image right here, it's got the French ambassadors by Hans Holbein. Hans Holbein, not French, but he was doing this image based off of the ambassadors. So during the Renaissance, there's a huge boom because more people are reading, more people are getting educated. It's the time of researching and trying to understand and observation, and they're sketching and they're practicing, and we start to create a different type of educational system to train other artists, and dadgummit, they learn about perspective. And so in this image right here, can you guys see in this corner that twisted, weird image? If you twist it in a certain area, it's a skull. They were actually using some cheater tricks on how to render these things. You know, to even pull in these large things with grid work, so if you learn to draw from a grid. Oh, there's also on the floor Cosmati pavements, so more ceramic tile bits. As far as, oh, I love the Baroque time frame. If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. How many of you, raise your hand if you love Caravaggio. Italian artists, but other people during the Baroque time frame were thinking about the church is succeeding, the church is doing great, but the church becomes corrupt, and I'm just saying the church in general. So then we have the split of the church, so in order to wow them and bring them back to the fold, during the Baroque time frame we did images with extension of the picture plane and dramatic use of lights and darks, and we want these wow climax of action moments. So cat Kat just left. Chaos has taken a different class, so she hasn't gotten my climax of action story. But yes, the Baroque time frame, we think about a lot of climax wow moments of the church. So this one may not necessarily be about that, but other people studying Caravaggio, and so we still see the dramatic use of lights and darks. Beautiful, beautiful image. Anytime you see a skull around, it's like, let's think about life and death. Let's think about how we need to live life to the fullest, and let's need to think about learning from the past and whatnot. Doesn't mean they're doomy and gloomy that I'm aware of, but you could tell me a gullible story and I'd be like, oh my gosh, really? The Cult of the Skull? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get into that. No, I'm lying about the Cult of the Skull, totally made that up. All right, so, ooh, la la. I made a big jump because we were talking about churchy stuff. This is no churchy stuff. This is some smutty stuff. You know what? I shouldn't say it's smutty stuff. I keep trying to correct myself. This is life. Butts are butts. We've all got butts. Well, some of us maybe not. But anyway, so we're going to be jumping from one area to the next. So why are we going to see so many fannies? Why are we going to see not fannies? And so if we're jumping back and forth, as far as I like to call Rococo, some people say Rococo. I was always trained Rococo. But anyway, I call Rococo frilly, frilly, frou-frou. So it's overly ornate. So initially, if you guys look at this and go, ugh, nudies. Yeah. In your Greek times, there were plenty of nudies, because if you think about Greek gods and goddesses, oftentimes nudies. Doesn't mean anything bad, but it could be something suggestive. So this is supposed to be Diana. Do y'all know who Diana is?
Of the hunt.
Goddess of the hunt. So I love to rip on Rococo. I like to rip on it because I think it's so silly. It's art of the boudoir, art of the bedroom. So if we've got the whims of the aristocracy. If you think about the times of Marie Antoinette, she's spending tons of money on let's rearrange this garden to look like this and this, and let's buy all these clothes, and let's get these powdered wigs, and let's do all this stuff. It's frivolous. So a lot of times the art of the boudoir is what we might. Actually, I don't know that we call it this nowadays, but back in my day, you might have called it, the centerfold. So yes, it's suggestive art. So it's not what the everyday people would have looked at in certain situations, but it was supposed to be suggestive. But anyway, I like to make fun of this one right here because, oh my gosh, Rococo times. What was me and my girlfriends, we're gonna go out hunting. Hey girlfriend, let's go out. Oh, it just happened to get hot and sweaty, so let's just take off all of our clothes and let's frolic around with my pets, my pet bird that lands at my feet. And whoopsie daisy, that Cupid came by and took away my fabric. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be suggestive. So Fragonard's The Swing. Everybody's seen Fragonard's or who's not seen Fragonard's The Swing? Oh, you haven't? A couple people haven't? So this one's a great one to talk about implied lines. So we've got our actual lines, physical lines, and then we've got our implied lines. So your mama tells you not to do this. I'm doing two things. What am I doing wrong right now? I'm staring, putting my am I getting some feedback here? And I'm pointing. We shouldn't do those type of things. When we have eye lines, we create the gaze, or where we're going to view. And so if we see this image right here, where is she staring? She's staring down into the corner. Follow that diagonal line. So we have the physical line of the swing that creates the diagonal. And as we follow that diagonal and her eye lines, we see down in the corner. What's in the corner? Yeah, a little creeper down there. Is he a creeper? No, she's really aware because she's just kicking that shoe off like, oh, whoopsie daisy. Oh, nothing under here. And he's like, ooh la la, ooh la la. What's Cupid saying? Shh. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But we're not in Vegas, we're in France. So anyway, when I call it frilly, frilly, frou-frou, it's like, imagine that Bob Ross has taken his happy little trees and he's painting the happy dress fluff and the happy this and this and the happy haze because they're in this romantic haze. So again, yeah, I'm ripping on this one a bit because it's the juicy stuff, but yeah, later on it's going to be off with their heads. All these people that were spending all this money on all this fancy stuff and doing all of this smutty stuff, and there were so many buns in the oven here and there and here and there. What are they going to do with all that? Revolution. You guys are out. So we're going to see things are going well, things are going bad, things are going well, things are going bad. So yeah, we're gonna off a lot of people's heads. But before we off their heads, let's talk about some Rococo interiors. I call this the barf monster of filigree. And maybe it's because there's gold leaf everywhere, and some people love it, and they throw in all of this gold and all of this finery and all of this and this. It looks like we're rich and powerful. All I can think of is, oh God, Mom would make me dust that. And I said, my mom loved to have things, and she loved for us to dust because my twin sister had asthma. So I was like, I will never have all those knickknacks and paddywhacks and all those things to dust ever, because that's a whole lot of stuff. And all the fingerprints on mirrors, because mirrors were seen as rich and opulent. And so yes, we have lots of juicy interiors. I don't know about you, I feel like Liberace would be happy over here. Let's throw in some tigers and whatnot. But do you want to dust that? I don't want to dust that. So yeah, we're gonna have some off with their heads. We're gonna have some revolutions. Yeah, so the death of Marat, we're having, there's so much I could go into with this one right here as far as juicy stories, and how he had a skin disorder, and how he would have people come to his bath and write these declarations and lead people on to revolution, because we see that these people are using and abusing their power and using and abusing this money and taking, I don't know about my time. Oh, I'm running out of time. Isms, lots of isms. Napoleon, this is not a ooh la la image, but Napoleon, as far as neoclassical and romanticism, they're kind of going to go into one another, but we're thinking about times of revolution. We are neoclassical, we're looking at the clarity and art of a moral lesson. So if we just saw all of that smutty stuff, and maybe I shouldn't call it smutty stuff, the juicy stuff, juicy, sexy stuff, lusty stuff, then we're going to go into, no, we need to have art with a moral lesson. So with this moral lesson, we need to rally people. Then during the war times and romanticism, I used to confuse romanticism with Rococo, because I thought romantic should be all that lovey stuff. But romanticism is about the turmoil in your brain and about the unpredictabilities and nature and all of these things. So if we went back to the movie Airplane and people were getting sick, and that's funny, she never has 2 cups of coffee at home, for those that know the movie, how would you feel if you knew that something bad was happening? Where would you be? So during war times, what is your state of mind? Are you there to champion people? There's so many romantic images that are like, so-and-so's gonna die, but so-and-so is the one that says, let's be in it together, but then so-and-so is like, oh my gosh. So, but anyway, Viva Revolution. This one's up. It's a great image, fine and dandy. But Courbet said, "Show me an angel, and I'll paint you an angel. But if it's not in real life, it's not worthy of painting it." So when we go into realism, we're thinking about everyday life, everyday type of virtues. Doesn't last super long. That's the Stonebreakers. So then we get into we could spend an entire lecture series just on Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. So this is the beautiful stuff where I want you guys to think that when you're here on campus, or if you're going on a trip, wherever you are, look at the beauty around you. We don't stop to look at the beauty around us a lot of times. So when it's a beautiful sunset, when it's a beautiful sunrise, whatever, y'all are in a gorgeous location. This is a wonderful town, and I want you to look and observe all the beauty of nature. So I like a lot of the context that goes along with this beauty, because we have to think, there's the joke right here I put up there. If it looks like you need new prescription glasses, it's Impressionism. Why is it painted so loosely? Because we've got a lot of change. So we've got a famous photographer in the house. Photography is going to free the artist. The artists don't have to render as hyper-realistically. They'll still train through the academy. So initially, they're making fun of the Impressionists, like, y'all so sloppy. But the idea impression, you take the key word. What is your impression of light, weather, time of day? So my first impression, I might make a horrible first impression with you guys. Hyper squirrel. Yeah, but get to know me and I can calm down. I like to make a lot of jokes, but get to know me, I'm a hard worker. So remember, your first impression may not always be true. Sometimes. But anyway, the impression of these images, it gets you in the gut. So I'm hoping that it gets you in the gut. So, so as far as our context goes, we've got the Industrial Revolution. And with the Industrial Revolution, we bring in the train. The train is going to allow not only goods to go from the city into other locations, but it's also going to allow people to travel. So if you're working in the city, you jump onto that train, and then you can go out to these beautiful pastoral locations. So it's going to make vacation time easier because they're also going to create labor laws. And with labor laws, we're going to remove some child labor. So we're going to see in some images that children could be seen as children and not worker bees. So if you have fair pay, then you can go out and enjoy your night out on the town. So I saw many of you guys night out on the town. So yeah, if you have fair pay and you can also spend money on frivolous things, like maybe art. So what else do I have in here? The collapsible tin tube. So before that, they were using mortar and pestle. They were sieving this stuff out. So now I've got pre-packaged paints, and I've got an easel that I can carry with me. I jump onto the train. I go out. They said that Monet would have like 14 easels set up around one location. He would paint rapidly, go to the next easel, paint rapidly, go to the next easel, paint rapidly. So it doesn't mean he got it all done in the day, because my gosh, we could be making money left and right if people were actually spending. But anyway, what else do I have in here? Yeah, trade and travel. So sometimes when they saw the train, they would see this as a sign of growth and like beauty. Sometimes our really pretty sunsets are based off of pollution because the light's hitting inside, but I'm not going to go into that. We've got our scientists that can talk about that. So in plein air or on plein air, when you go outside to draw, I know the drawing class went out and I was so jealous because I'm not getting to teach drawing here, but I'm like, yes, if I were here teaching drawing class, I'd have those kids outside all the time drawing from nature. Yeah, they're still mixing and mingling with lots of cultures. So our color palette is going to broaden because we're mixing and mingling with even Japan. We're not going to go into that because if we think about Van Gogh's images. So yeah. I know I'm running out of time. Oh my gosh. There you go. I got a photograph in there for you. Daguerreotype. So with that photography. So initially those still frames. So if you see those old school images, like look at that ghost. No, it could have been like somebody wiggling and while they were developing an image. But yes, photography is going to just change the art world. Oh, did I just get... Yay, you're getting better. What you'll actually see for those that travel, the Monet painting of water lilies. I feel so bad because my mom hated water lilies when she lived on the lake, and she was like, I'm going to poison all these and pull them all up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Monet is rolling. So yes, ready? 1, 2, 3. Getting better, maybe. All right, yes, so water lilies. So when we're looking at the impression of light, we're thinking about what is the time of day. So as the light is reflecting off of the water, we see the pinks. So red at night, sailor delight. Red in the morning, sailor take warning. So the different times of day, they're huge. When you go to see the galleries, absorb it, love it, embrace it. So I used to not understand color field painting, which is way in the future, and we're not going to talk about it. But then I started to say, when you engulf yourself in color, you engulf yourself in the moment, you have a visceral response. And I painted my room pink once, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm like a bunny trapped in a cage. So color can be very, very influential. So the other thing is, with the Impressionist and Post-Impressionism, they go out to the cityscapes. They're painting these beautiful cityscapes. Think about that when we are embracing, how do we want this town to transition? Where are we growing? Are we building Brico block houses? Those presto ugh, things? Are we, and I hear that somebody in here has a beautiful historic home. We want to embrace the beauty of those historic homes. That's the ooh la la moment of me driving around LaGrange like, ooh, who's got that house? Ooh, look at that history. Ooh, look at that reference. So invest in it. It's important. So lots and lots of boating. Does anybody know what BOAT stands for? break out another 1,000. That's what I've heard. I don't have a boat, but I would love to be a boat person, but boat people only hang out with boat people, and they don't invite you onto their boats. Who's got a boat? I'd love an invite. But anyway, so lots of boating scenes because this is what we're doing. We've got our leisure time. We're going out to the parks. We're enjoying ourselves. So I wanted to jump really quickly to Mary Cassatt. She's an American. She spent a lot of time in France. But where I referenced the idea that children could be seen as children, but you also need to think that male artists would be doing a certain type of imagery, female artists that were not supposed to be mixing and mingling with the male artists. I married one, yeah, so she painted a lot of images of home. And this is where I think within Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, it's a beautiful Mother's Day gift. I don't know if you guys want books anymore, your coffee table book, but Mary Cassatt books are beautiful because it's about the love of mom and child. And that wonderful embrace, but compositionally we could go into all that stuff because it's so good, but running out of time. If it looks like a peeping Tom, it's Degas. So Degas going to the bourgeois upper class, going to see the plays, not plays, but the ballet, the dances. But yeah, the little dancer, the bather, Renoir, so the dappled effect of the light as it traipses through the trees and people are dancing and enjoying their time downtown. I love our little downtown. Our little downtown is nothing like Gaffney's because since the closure of Limestone, downtown is dead. It's dead. No students. People aren't going down there. It is depressing. So I love if I go to South Carolina and I drive home, I'm like, I'm usually talking to my bestie on the phone, I'm like, downtown is popping. I'm just not out there, but I was this weekend. So post-impressionism, especially pointillism, for those of you that saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you've got Sunday afternoon on LaGrange College. I could have butchered that pronunciation, but people are mixing and mingling in the parks. So are we supporting the public arts? I love during homecoming to see that so many people were decorating things for homecoming downtown around that square, and that we have a skate park and we have this in this area. So we've got the thread. Eiffel Tower. Oh, a little side note. When a lot of this stuff was happening, we have some Sally Sad stuff happening in America. So Van Gogh, all the crazy stories about Van Gogh, not French. Why did I put him here? He goes to France. And as he's looking at the beauty of the landscape, as he's mixing and mingling with all the people at the French schools. Toulouse-Lautrec. How many of you guys know that he was inbred? Yay, 2 people. Yeah. So because of that, we're yacht club people. Kissing cousins means that he's born with a whole lot of deformities. Why is that important? Because it's a juicy tidbit? No, it's important because as he's a reject from the upper class, because his bones were brittle and they broke. So imagine that I'm an adult size, but my legs are only this size. So not only is he walking around with these short little legs, he also has elephantitis, that's the slang term of a certain area that you wouldn't want to be big. So as he's a social reject, yeah, I can tell you later, he's hanging out with the people at the Moulin Rouge, the cabaret clubs. Who's also hanging out at those cabaret clubs? Prostitutes. He's hanging out with the people in the circus, the freaks and the geeks at the circus. So when we see the image of the Moulin Rouge, so I don't know, how many of you guys are going to go out to the juice, like when you travel, do you just go to the clean and pure areas, or do you go see what the locals do? That's right. I'm not telling. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So that's where he was hanging out with. Picasso's not French, but so here's something that when I was having the discussion, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to Avignon. No, found out we were digging some information. This is Avignon in Barcelona. So just in case you thought that it was a reference to France, no, Barcelona. But anyway, within Cubism, there is a Cubist. Oh, I got the standing up. Brock was the Cubist, but at a time. So LHOOQ, do you know what that stands for? Or what phonetically it sounds like? I'm going to have to say a curse word, but we can say donkey. The translation phonetically of LHOOQ meant she has a hot donkey. But anyway, yeah, with Duchamp's image right there, it's spoofy, and it was one of those things that in art we're like, I don't understand. If any of you guys have questions about that, because we've got somebody standing up and Yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the lecture series. So you just hit your sprint. You've hit your sprint of art history. Any questions? Thank you.